How's it going, folks, and welcome back to episode number 37 here with Atalanta in FM22. This is probably our final season of Football Manager 2022. This is probably my final summer transfer window, and this may well even be the final transfer special of the entire year of FM. With that in mind, it's an important one. I want to set us up for winning the Champions League. That's the dream, that's the aim. Today, we're going to spend our pennies wisely and hopefully feel fully prepared for the new season. Let's do this. Now, of course, just as a little reminder, if you did miss last episode, we had the Club World Cup, we had the transfer special. It was a weird episode. I'm hoping today is going to be a little bit more on rails, just as a little reminder of who we signed. Final warning, if you watched the last episode, good, excellent. Just have a look at the transfer special here. You can see we have done a few special transfers. Alessandro Bastoni, homegrown at club, signed, 26 years old, £115 million for a centre-back. We really have hit the future in this save game, although I feel like we have been selling some pretty good players for significant sums of money. I feel like we didn't really dwell on this guy once he arrived at the club. He is absolutely phenomenal. I feel like as a wide centre-back in our system on the left-hand side, he is going to be absolutely sensational. I mean, when you look at this defence now, it's quite exciting. Of course, Mancini is one option that we have alongside Scalvini. I need to decide which of these is going to be the man who plays wide centre-back and which is going to be the one who plays in the middle. I'm still not 100% decided on it just yet. You guys can let me know which of these you think should play as the wide centre-back and which of these should play as the centre-back in the middle. I'm a little bit undecided. I like the fact that obviously Scalvini has better jumping reach, has better strength. I think as the physical man in the middle, he could be better. But Mancini does have that extra bit of aggression, extra bit of bravery, and the better heading. Also, Scalvini has some nice player-preferred moves, doesn't he? He has, brings the ball out of defence, dictates tempo, stuff that might actually be semi-usable in the wide centre-back role. Maybe we'll line up like this for the year. I'm not sure. Bastoni's definitely going left centre-back. Elsewhere, I suppose there's some question marks. Now, of course, last episode, we did make a couple of sales. Romero and Galini left us. One man who I didn't acknowledge leaving was Grassi. He was really just here to, help us hit the homegrown at club quota, but he's left to go to River Plate on a free transfer. He's just not very good. He never really played for us. I think he had more injuries than appearances after he joined us. And just as a little reminder of the current transfer situation, we have Brian Conlon, who is possibly on his way out on loan to Toulouse. Elsewhere, Notto looks like he is destined to leave the club for £50 million, but we do already have a replacement lined up. That replacement is Moise Kean, who we're on the verge of signing for £29 million, albeit with some of the most outrageous wage demands I've seen this year in Football Manager. But given the fee that we're paying, given actually the fact I think he is a better player than Notto, and he's, let's be honest, he's a very good footballer in Football Manager terms, I think he's probably worth that salary because of the price we're getting him for. And of course, we left things with me signing one further player for the future, Leo, 18 years old, labelled as the next Ronaldo. There were a couple of questions asking Jack, if this is, one of the final seasons of this save game, why sign Leo? Long-term viewers know. At the end of these series, I like to holiday into the future, see what happens, and so trying to give the team some good young players for the next managers who come along to make use of, I feel like is smart. I'm not really someone who likes to I like to play, I hate to use the word realistically, but I like to plan for the future as if I was going to continue to play the save game, rather than me, sitting here for this transfer window, doing a load of transfer business that would just financially ruin the club, but wouldn't actually impact me, given the fact it is probably our final season. So if all those transfers go through, we are going to be left with about £30 million, maybe a tiny bit of wage budget as well. There might be some money to get a little bit flexible. I was kind of looking through the team thinking, if there was part of the team I was going to improve, where would it be? And to be honest, and this might be a bit blasphemous, it might be DeMarco out on the left. Now, this man, don't get me wrong, very, very good player. I feel like this season just gone, he wasn't exactly at his best. Of course, he was no longer taking set pieces. Tonali took them away from him. But I think when you look at him out on the left-hand side and, when you compare him to the man on the right in Musa, you quickly realise that actually DeMarco, who was one of our first big signings for the club, just isn't quite as good as he was when he joined us. He is definitely a lesser player, age 27. Now, whether or not there's really a replacement that exists, I suppose, remains to be seen. But yeah, I think with the money that we've got, we might be looking at the left-hand side that, or maybe we go crazy and sign a load of young players for the future. Now, to be honest, when I look across all the left mid kind of players who are partially Italian, it's not the most inspired of lists. You know, you could go for an older player like Tagliafico, although I'm not really sure he's an upgrade on DiMarco. Someone like Rafinha probably wouldn't be the worst option in the world, but if we just look at his asking price, I don't have 113 or 133 million pounds to spend. I mean, 113 million pounds I don't have either, but that is quite a lot of money for Rafinha, who incidentally is part Italian. I didn't know that either. I know some people are sat there thinking, wow, part Italian? Yeah, I know. I was surprised too. Our former player Pellegrini shows up on this list. Of course, we sold him to Leipzig for 39.5 million. If you were wondering how he did in his year at the club, here's the answer. Not very well. A 6.97 rating. The one player who I had my eye on for a little bit, and I did wonder if we might end up signing him, was Destiny Udogi. I'm going to call him the Dogmeister. Maybe I shouldn't. The Dogmeister here, Destiny Dogmeister. He's a very good player, 22 years old, but unfortunately he got signed from Inter. When he was playing for Udinese, I was eyeing him up. Now that he's moved to Inter, he's a bit more expensive to sign. And to be honest, he wasn't that impressive, I want to say, in his first year. If we just look at the Italian national team, because of course this isn't the worst way in the world to look at players. Their kind of left back that they use is Pellegrini. The left midfielder they use, well, they don't use a left midfielder because they play narrow. But to be honest, the left-sided players they have are players like DiMarco. I've just realised that almost the entire national team bench is just our players. That is actually a really bizarre sight. Why are none of our players starting? What is this anti-Atalanta bias? But anyway, I think the first kind of action of today really is to make sure the Notto deal goes through and the Moise Kean deal happens. I actually think Moise Kean is a really good striking option for us to have. And elsewhere, we have the option to sign Leo. Do I want to sign Leo? £10 million is quite a lot of money, but he could be very good. My scouts like him a lot. He's got 17 career goals in 44 games, partially Italian nationality. Sign him whatever the price. You know what? 10 million's the price. I'm signing him. I'm going to trust my scouts. Hopefully when we go deep into the future, this transfer looks like a piece of genius business. He looks absolutely sensational, to be fair. Now, of course, I've talked about this a little bit, but one of the ways I like to scout players in Football Manager is to look through national teams. I think you can do a really good job of looking through players, and the way that I was able to find, partially Italian players is by having a secondary nationality column set up. You can just insert that in. And of course, that also applies when you look at kind of the youth team setup. So, there's players like Pirani here, who's partially Italian, who's playing over for Santos. He's okay. He's a little bit, I think, behind the level that we're looking at for players. But you really can just look through these teams and kind of find some pretty good players. Of course, players do come in and out. So between international breaks, it's really worth looking at, teams frequently because it will get changed up. For example, Adriel here is a man that apparently I've looked at some point. He looks okay, partially Italian, 6 to 9 million. I mean, if I decide to go down the route of let's just sign a load of players for the future, maybe players like Adriel are players that we go for. As it stands, there's no new exciting Italian options. Let's have a quick look through the Argentine youth team because you never know. And in fact, there are a couple of Italians here. Leandro Belli, he's very eccentric. Let's get a scout report on him. Elsewhere, there's Mingola. Get a scout report on you. All of these part Italian players. I feel like you get a lot of part Italian players playing in Argentina and Brazil. Loma Nacho here, who I've looked at apparently before, injury prone, questionable potential. We'll get another scout report on him anyway. Elsewhere, there is Matthias Sule, who is a real player who is not very good in this universe, I'm afraid to say. Under 23s, any Italians? There's a few more. Cardinal, he looks very good. I'm getting a scout report on that man. And also Faciani, probably saying that name horrifically. He's part Italian too. He looks like he could be a good little wing back or like wide midfielder. Good haircut too. We'll get a scout report. Maybe some of them will be worth signing. And if they're not, well, I've just spent 2 minutes of your life going for a national team full of players that I'm not going to sign. And I will not apologise for wasting your time. Maybe there was some useful knowledge in the last couple of minutes. So Leo has officially joined us. He looks very good. Apparently a B- from the fans, the 18-year-old, in terms of how we are going to train this man who, he could be the striker of the future. He could be the next Ronaldo. I think most logically we work, on his attacking movement or his final third, just because his anticipation and decisions are a little on the lower side. Obviously his physicals are not perfect, I suppose, but they will just get better with time because he is on the younger side. But I think when you look at him here, with the exception of his anticipation, his decisions, and maybe his stamina, he is still a very, very good advanced forward. Not the best player in the air, and 10 million's not a small amount of money. Is he still labelled as the next Ronaldo? He is. I'm backing it. Should I nickname him Ronaldo? That might be a little bit far, mightn't it? Dortmund have made another offer for Notto. I feel like they made an offer like this last episode. They've offered less than 50 million that we're getting off Milan, so I am going to turn that down. Elsewhere, Conlon has had some interest in him. He was actually kicking up a fuss about the fact that I wasn't selling him previously. I've told him that I'll sell him if a bid of 11 million comes in. He basically told me, hey, let me leave or make me a star player. And I was never going to make him a star player. I think if we got 11 million for him, it probably wouldn't be the worst deal in the world. Of course, we've now got in Leo, who is perhaps not quite as good now, but certainly my scouts think that potential-wise, he has got a better future ahead of him. Now, whether or not you can trust that or not, I suppose is up for debate. But ultimately, I don't feel like losing Brian Conlon now would be the most disastrous thing ever to happen in the world, especially if he doesn't want to be here. But no one is coming close to that £11 million yet. So Inter have just made an offer for Notto. They've not offered the 50 million. They've offered kind of 47, but it's negotiable. I'm going to be cheeky. I'm going to ask for 60. They've bid 60. I'm going to accept 60. I'd like to issue a public apology to AC Milan. Your bid is no longer good enough. 60 million for Notto. That's madness. I mean, the fact they bid 47 million that was flexible meant that I felt like I could get cheeky, especially with the Milan bid already in the bank. I mean, there's no way that Milan are going to match that bid, but I thought 50 million was outrageous. Now we're getting 60. This is silly. I say all of this now. Wait until he scores for Inter against me next season and I'm just kind of regretting my life choices. But until then, let's just admire and appreciate that on the face of it, it looks like we're doing some fantastic business. Getting through a few scout reports, by the way, on some of these players that we were looking at previously. Not so sure about Matteo, but Adriel here, who's playing for Internacional, does look like an interesting one. I love the 19 flair. Going to be doing some crazy tricks on the ball. Very, very consistent performer, which is kind of interesting and fairly professional personality. Asking price of 6 to 9 million. Weird player, though. My biggest issue with Adriel here is I'm not sure what their best position is. I don't think they know what their best position is. Do you play them out wide? But then they haven't really got the good finishing or crossing to be kind of a winger or a striker. If you play them at centre mid, what are you playing them as? Like, is a ball-winning midfielder really their best role? I feel like when you look through it, the fact that they have no more than 1.5 stars in any role kind of just shows that they're not really suited to anything. I'd be interested to know, what would you do with Adriel here? The kind of player that has a good current ability, but it's just got such a weird spread. I'm not sure even what you would do with them. I'll add them to the maybe pile. If we have some money left at the end of the transfer window, maybe we make a move for them. But right now, I don't feel a need to make it happen. Elsewhere, Verona made an offer for Malpelli of 1.4 million. Just as a reminder, signed him for 4.2. Yes, that might have been an overpay. No, that doesn't mean I have to sell him for 1.4 million. And also, Conlon, who I thought we might be in danger of losing, has agreed to go to Toulouse on loan. Let's hope he's not going to go there to lose and that he's going to do a lot of winning. Yeah, good loan option for him. Going to be interested to see how he gets on playing regular first-team football in Ligue 1. Okay, Moise Kean, the deal is done. The only issue is Notto hasn't yet left the club. So with that in mind, we're going to delay this. Endor's had an offer for him. Endor is not available. Of course, this guy, very much a backup player in our team, but he's one of only a handful of homegrown at club players we have. In fact, you can see here, if we just look at homegrown at club players, we have actually got a few more now. Maybe I could look to sell him, you know? But not for the fee that I've just had offered. Apparently he's valued at 5.6 to 6.4 million. I didn't really want to sell him last year, but of course I've remembered now. We've signed Bastoni. Winston Ame is now also considered homegrown at club. There's a little bit more scope to move someone on. We've also got Chimini in the team too. What did we bring Endor in for? We brought him in for 120k from Benfica after they signed him from us in real life. Well, we'll see what we can get for him. I think if a bid came in of 5 million, I might even take it, but I'll start high, work our way down. He's the kind of squad player who I think we can get rid of. And look at that. Mainz and Torino, 7.5 million. That is good enough for me. We will reject all the unresponded offers. That could be some more nice money in the bank. We might have a little bit more than that 30 million I expected us to have to spend in the bank to actually, well, go nuts with, especially because, of course, we've got the extra 10 million from Notto. And Endor looks like he could be on his way out too. Okay, some really, really good news for us. Notto has agreed to sign for Inter. I'm not in the business of selling my best players to a rival, but ultimately Inter have taken a fair few of our players over the year that haven't gone on to really perform for them. I'm hoping this is going to be another example. I mean, ultimately, it's £60 million with a little bit of a sell on as well if they do sell him on for profit. For a 21-year-old for whom I already have a replacement ready who's coming in for half the price. I mean, yeah, we were signing Moise Kean for 29 million, Notto's leaving for 60. I know there's a few years difference, but ultimately, I think it's a net gain in terms of the overall quality that our squad receives with this deal. Okay, Moise Kean does officially join us. I did look at the comments last video. I feel like the opinion was a little bit split on whether or not it was the right thing to do, but ultimately, I think he's a very, very good Italian attacking option who's going to kind of come in to be our fourth choice striker, but a player who easily on his day could pretty much walk into any team in world football, and I would like to think perform. When you look at him here as an advanced forward, he is just absolutely sensational, which in our team, in our system, is what we're looking for. He probably will be more the backup to Raspadori, whereas Sesko and Luca kind of compete for that more tall striker position in our team. But yeah, that deal is done, and with it, we have no more transfers currently on the ends. On the outs, Endor still on course to leave us for 7.5 million. We are going to receive, as you can see here, 100% of that transfer revenue for the Endor deal, assuming it goes through. That's going to leave us with £45 million in the bank. We could spend that somewhere still. Now, I know earlier I talked about the possibility of bringing in a left-sided player to compete with DiMarco. I think we are honestly going to struggle to find someone who can play better than DiMarco in that area. And additionally, for 45 million, I'm not entirely sure we can expect to find kind of a player who's going to significantly up the quality of our team. I feel like we're getting to a point now with our squad where the overall quality is just right up there, that it becomes difficult to improve. That said, has anyone spied what I've spied? Nandez. We were looking at this man a few years ago. It might have even been last summer, and they wanted 40 million for him. He's now transfer listed, the 29-year-old. He did not have a good season in the Premier League. We don't really have an obvious right mid option. Of course, we kind of trained Ricci out there to play last year. Nandez is a very good player. For 12 million, can play it more defensively in the midfield, can play on the right, can play on the left. And I quite like him. Let's get a scout report. I think for 12 million, it's a reasonable deal. And, I mean, I looked at him a year ago and was more keen on him than I am now. But even despite that recent slump in form, he'd still be, I think, a fairly useful player for us. I mean, when I look at the squad depth, the one area of the pitch where I go, maybe we could do with a little bit more, is that right-hand side of the pitch. Obviously, we have Musa, we have Ricci, then there's a gap. If we brought in Nandez, not only does he offer a right mid option, but as I said, he can play on the left. He can also play right back and right wing back. And on top of that, he can play in the centre of the midfield too. So he really does kind of offer a hell of a lot of a utility. And I do like the fact he's got some pretty good mentals on him with some good kind of, well, even though personality, the great natural fitness as well. There's a lot to like about Nandez. You know what? I'm going to put in a bid of 11.75 million. And I'm going to see how much he wants a week on wages. I'm not even going to wait for the scout report. I'm keen. Okay, good news. He's willing to be a squad player. He wants to be a ball-winning midfielder. I can't give you that, mate. If you're willing to be, I want to say French player and hope he won't get angry, but he will get angry. I'll just say squad player. Squad player. He's currently on how much a week? 69,000. He wants 87. I'm going to offer him 70. I think for 12 million, you're getting a very, very useful squad player here in an area of the pitch where I think maybe we were lacking a player. There was definitely games where I couldn't rotate the team quite as much as I wanted to. £72,000, it's a 3-year deal. He's 29 years old. It locks him down pretty much for the best years of what's left of his career. I'm just trying to wonder, I'm just trying to work out and wonder, why was his rating so bad this year just gone? I mean, he didn't get any red cards. It wasn't like he got a load of sendings off. I feel like in general, defensive midfielders just get kind of shafted in the match engine. So maybe we'll just chalk it off to that. I feel like I could get a lot out of this guy. In some ways, I suppose Nandez is coming in to be the replacement for Endor. We're kind of getting rid of Endor, who's less versatile, not as good, and kind of competing in the centre in the midfield, and replacing him with someone who can cover all of the stuff Endor can cover and can actually play on the right-hand side, which is where I think if there was one gap in the team that we had, it existed. Looking at things here, Wisdom Ame apparently has some interest in him. Tottenham have made an offer for Pepetti. There's been a few teams interested in Pepetti, which I find really, really curious because he's good. I don't think he's great. Like, there was a year or two ago in Football Manager where he was just absolutely insane. I feel like, at least in this save game, he's not been quite as impressive. Maybe that's a harsh analysis. I mean, he's a very, very good squad player. We signed him for 12 million. But yeah, I don't really feel like I need to get rid of him. If I sold him, I think it'd be kind of difficult to find that replacement. And we're getting bids that aren't even at 20 million right now. So I don't think he's going to go anywhere. My only concern, I suppose, is if he starts to kick up a bit of a stink and starts to ask about moving. But hopefully it won't come to that. I'm sure it'll be fine. Inter have made an offer for Mancini, of course. We signed him from Tottenham for 41 million. Their bid that they've made is worth 32 million. I really wish that AI would take into account the kind of money that I've spent on players before making a bid, especially for someone like Mancini, who is 29 and had an exceptional season last year. 21 games, 3 player of the matches. Why would I ever sell him for that price? No idea. Also, you can see here, Pobega is continuing to make good development. Apparently, he'd be a leading player for most Serie A sides. Of course, for us, he's a backup. But I mean, he's a blooming good backup, apparently. And you can see right at the top here, Nandez has agreed to sign for us. I'm just going to delay this, just waiting for the Endor deal to go through. But even, to be honest, if the Endor deal, for whatever reason, didn't happen, I'd probably sign Nandez anyway. Man City have made an offer for DeMarco. They've offered, well, you can see here, 39.5 million. He has an asking price of 64 million. They're not even getting close to it. I already outlined today how DeMarco might be a bit of a weak link, but there isn't really an obvious Italian replacement. With that in mind, Man City are going to have to put in a much better offer than the one they've just put in for him. Okay, official confirmation. Endor is heading to Torino for 7.5 million. That means that we can now officially confirm the signing of Nandez. The net spend, obviously, with these two players swapping is slightly kind of higher, I guess, towards our cost. We're spending about 5 million on Nandez. He's definitely a squad player. He definitely doesn't quite have the quality of other players out there, but he's pretty good coverage. When you compare the two of them here, you can see I think he does edge out Endor a little bit. We don't need Endor anymore as a homegrown player. And yeah, Nandez just has superior versatility, especially within the system that we play. Tell you what's an interesting comparison, just looking at DeMarco, who we were talking about being the weak link on the left, and comparing him, of course, to Nandez on the right. Kind of star rating wise, DeMarco half a star better in the eyes of our staff. But when you compare the two of them, I actually think they're way closer than it kind of looks on first viewing. Nandez, better mentals, better physicals as well, although not quite as good acceleration, which I suppose you could argue is more important in the wide areas. In terms of the technicals, there's no denying that DeMarco wins it, but when you look at the stuff that he's better at, it is a lot of these kind of bigger differences in stuff like free kick taking, corners, even long shots and long throws that I think make the gap between the two players look more significant than it really is. Kind of ultimately, when you look at them like this, there's not a world of difference between them. I feel like Nandez is getting done a bit dirty by the game's kind of rating of him here. I think he's going to be a good player. The fact that he's a natural leader is nice, perfectionist too. Obviously, we brought in Bonucci in January, and I do feel like just getting a few more experienced head in the team is always kind of a good thing to do. When you look at the team now, we have Bonucci, who's 38, Perin, who's 32, Nandez and Mancini, two players we've signed in the last year, and in fact, all 4 of these signings signed in the last year do just offer a little bit more experience into our team. So right now we are at a point where we have no more players coming in or going out, at least in terms of permanent transfers. I am currently looking actually to loan out Omar. Originally I was trying to sell him for $1 million. No one wanted him. Speaking of which, I've just remembered that Salcedo exists. Should we try and sell Salcedo? We tried this last year and it didn't work. Let's try again. Surely someone wants Eddie Salcedo. 3.2 million. It's a bargain. Could be the bargain of a century. I was hoping that we'd get a nice quick continue here to loads of offers, but instead the auto saves kicked in. Has anyone bid on him? Verona, 1.9 million. You know what? You can have him for that. Get him gone. Just looking at our finances, we are now over the wage budget, which has jumped up quite significantly in recent years. With that in mind, I'm just going to shuffle a little bit of the budget across so that now we're comfortably under budget. Realistically, though, we've still got close to £30 million still to spend on players if we want to. We're in a bizarre situation now when I look at our squad, 25 players strong, and I kind of just feel like it's a good team. It's a team that doesn't necessarily need a load of new players. Of course, the sea of Italian flags is always nice to see. A few of these players do also have, of course, secondary Italian nationality. In fact, I think at this point, the only players who are not Italian are Rafael Luiz, who, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be Italian soon if he wants to be, a year and a half away. Elsewhere, Benjamin Sesko, of course, is not Italian. Can he get Italian nationality soon? I mean, he can technically in 2 years. And last but not least, a man who is going to have to wait a while if he wants to be part Italian. But I feel like we should just give him an honorary passport now. Zakarian, you can see here, 1,000 days completed, 2,500 days still left to go if he wants to be part Italian. Can we just pretend he's Italian? Can we just add an I on the end of his name or an E on the end of his name? And, you know, just pretend. I'm sure it'll be Zaccani, it's like Bastoni, Tonali, Zaccariani. No one will notice. There we go. Perfect. In terms of transfer listed Italians, there's no one that really jumps out at me. I suppose the next thing to look at would be who are the best Italians who have affordable prices. Unfortunately, the reality is when you sort players by ability like this, you start to realise that they are all a little bit out of your budget. I mean, someone like Zaniolo would be a pretty fun signing, 55 to 65 million though. If I was going to sign someone like him, I'd have to do it with a load of instalments, which I don't know if it's necessarily what I want to do, but I could do it. I mean, you could train... Okay, hear me out. This could be mental. Could you train Zaniolo to play left mid? Because he is left-footed, right? He's not as good as, say, DeMarco defensively, but I can't even compare the two of them because they don't have an overlap in positions. But I feel like he could be quite good. Like you have Musa who plays out on the right who's right-footed, and if we just look at the two of them compared... There's not a world of difference. I mean, Zaniolo's not as good defensively. How much do they want for Zaniolo? Am I about to go and buy a Zaniolo, despite the fact I know he's injury prone? 54 to 67 million. How much money have we got right now? 27 million. I mean, I could do it with clauses and installments because we have got a lot of money in the overall balance. The wages might still be a little bit of a concern. I'm just wondering if there's a way to make this happen. I mean, I'm thinking about players like Pessina, thinking, Pessina, if I got in Zaniolo, you'd probably just be replaced anyway. We have Pabega, who's 26. We've got Ravella and Ricci, who can play in the centre. Nandez as well. Luiz and Chimini. Pessina has some interest in him. Who wants him? Napoli. Shall we offer him out and just see if anyone nibbles? I'm going to offer him out for an unspecified amount. He's the 5th oldest player in our team. Napoli are allegedly interested. Let's see if they are actually interested. They've made a bid of 40 million. Apparently he has no interest in joining Napoli. Who's the other team apparently interested? PSG and Arsenal. Can I convince him to join them? You're not in my plans here. He's going to not give up without a fight. Thinks he can force his way into my plans. No, you can't. They're a very good club. I'm still willing to talk to them. I'll see what they can offer and make a decision based off that. Okay. I don't know if I've seen that line of text before. Well, I accept that offer of 40 million because that would basically fund a move for Zaniolo. I suppose the argument is Zaniolo enough of an upgrade on Pessina? I feel like Zaniolo's just a little bit more of an exciting player. Is that a really crappy justification? Zaniolo's just a bit funner. He has a bit more va-va-vum about him. Or something. That's what I'm going to tell myself. Right. I'm going to offer him out again. And I'm going to offer him out for 45 million, which is a bit more than what Napoli bid, just because Arsenal and PSG are interested. Just see if we can maybe entice an offer out of one of them. Elsewhere, I'm not going to make, I don't think, a bid for Zaniolo yet. I don't think there's much point in getting too carried away with it because I feel like Pessina's going to turn down Napoli anyway. So instead, I'm just going to work on trying to get Pessina out the door. But yeah, we've got players like Ravella who can slot into the team, obviously. We've got players like Ricci as well. Like the sad reality for Pessina is he's a bit of an old man. I say that, he's 28. He's literally younger than I am. But within our team, we've got players like Ricci, we've got Ravella, we've got Pabega as well who can slot in and play in the middle. Like if we look at the squad comparison here for centre mids, he is down in 9th. He's just not that good. The future is now, old man. Be gone. This is a weird injury. Luca has broken his nose. I don't think I remember seeing this injury. We'll just send him to the doctor. 3 to 4 days out with a broken nose. He'll be fine. Chimini, by the way, a 10.0 rating in training. I say that and get really excited. Then I look at him. There's just loads of red arrows. That's significantly less exciting. But this man, I need to give him more football this year. But maybe moving on Pessina can make that a little bit more likely. Monaco have made a bid for Wisdom Ame, who I will admit, his development's been a tiny bit disappointing this year. I was hoping he'd develop a little bit more over the last 12 months. But they've bid like £10 million. Are they taking the Michael? Not for that price. Absolutely no chance I'm selling him. It's a sad day. Eddie Salcedo going to Verona. I bought him for 5.5 million. I had such high hopes and Well, to be frank, he's been absolutely rubbish. We managed to get 1.9 million for him, which in itself is still an amazing deal for us, which really gives you an idea of how bad he's been. 11 appearances, we paid 210k per match. That really stings. That's not a good transfer in its entirety. We'll just pretend it never happened. Okay, this is interesting. Wasn't necessarily expected this. Pessina has agreed to go to Napoli. He's going to get to play more regular first-team football. We get 40.5 million. I don't feel like we have to sign a replacement for him. But obviously, I have been looking at Zaniolo as an option. It leaves us with a transfer budget of 69 million. Nice. And our wage budget has about 200,000 in it all of a sudden, which definitely opens up the opportunity to kind of add a player of significant ability. When I look through these kind of teams, I mean, someone like Barella would be fun, but I don't think we can necessarily afford Barella's wages. Elsewhere, Berardi's there. But to be honest, of all the players that we've been looking at, I do feel like Zaniolo might well be the one. Unless I want to go with someone like Jorginho, but he just doesn't have legs. He's old. I did consider Jorginho at one point, but I mean, Zaniolo is left-footed, but he can't play on the left. But if we train him to play on the left, I think he could be very, very good. I mean, look, hear me out. I know he can't play on the left side yet, but if we train him to play there, he could be Italy's next left mid choice. And it would also help us kind of address the DeMarco situation by upgrading that area of the pitch with a player who is super versatile to play a load of other spots. I'm talking myself into this deal. I don't have to convince anyone. I only have to convince myself, and I am convinced. 54 million. They've accepted it outright. Everyone's happy. Let's just hope his wage demands are reasonable. I did wonder why Zaniolo wasn't showing up in the realistic transfers anymore. He's just signed a new deal. When did he sign this new? When was this deal signed? When? 22nd of the 7th. He signed it a week ago, and Roma were already willing to sell him. I've sold Pessina for no reason. I mean, we've got good money. We have money to spend, but the option that I thought was the option is no longer the option. And I don't have a plan B yet. By my own standards, I feel like I've handled that quite well. That could have been a meltdown moment, realising we couldn't get Zaniolo, but I'm maturing as a manager. I mean, when I look at kind of centre mid options now and left mid options now, there's no one that really jumps out at me. Is it a bit boring just to go and look at the Italian national team and see who there is that we could sign who's not one of our own players? I mean, when we look at things here, Locatelli, Chiesa, Pellegrini. I mean, is Pellegrini any good? Yeah, he's not Zaniolo, is he? That is the issue now. I'm comparing all these players to Zaniolo. Barella, Immobile is 35. We could get in Immobile. Belotti, no. There's just not that many exciting players. Zaniolo was definitely the one. Do I just go and sign a load of young players now? I mean, looking at things here, there are a load of young, partially Italian players we've scouted from here, there, and everywhere. I just send my scouts to places and they come back. There's players like Giancomo Clemente, who is part Uruguayan, 2.4 million for him. You know what? I might just buy a load of young players. £2.4 million release clause. My scouts think he's okay. There's Roman Grillo, who plays for Saint Etienne, who's valued at 20 to 23 million. I mean, his mentals are actually insane. Professional personality, left-footed. There's a lot to like, but 20 million is a lot. I can't spend 20 million on Grillo. That's mad. Adriel we looked at, I don't know where you'd play him. Andrea Amico? I mean, he's interesting. 17 finishing with 14 composure and 14 off the ball is absolutely mad. Apparently 9 to 13 million. Do I need more strikers? We've just signed Leo. How does he compare with Leo? I think Leo might be a bit better. Who was the other guy here? Luca Mortellaro. Is he good? I can't even tell. He's right-footed, but they've been playing him at left wing-back. I'm offended for him. I mean, what is the Italian youth teams looking like? Ricci's in the under-23s. The under-21s is a lot of our players. If we sort by value, I mean, Notto's up there, but we've just sold him to them. Gabriella Piazzolla is playing for Tottenham. They've just signed him for 7 million from a random team in the Netherlands. He looks quite good. Probably should have been scouting and looking at him sooner. Milanese, I mean, he's not bad, but he's 22. He's not what we need. Apparently, I have scouted some of these guys. Francesco Di Simeone. I'm very lukewarm on a lot of these options. I really wanted Zaniolo. We will though sign Clemente, because for 2.4 million, we might as well sign him. The scouts think he's okay. It's a pretty low risk transfer. Hopefully he'll accept an extra year on his contract. Indeed he will. You can let me know if you think this guy's good. He looks very well rounded. He's 18, he's one for the youth team, but for 2.4 million, why wouldn't you sign him when we've got, how much? 69 million and no one to actually spend it on right now? I am very annoyed about the Zaniolo situation. I don't really want to make a signing for the sake of it. Like, even though we've sold Pessina, like, our centre mid options are still absolutely mad. Like, if we just highlight actual centre mids here, who I'd happily kind of play during the season at centre mid if I wanted to, I realise I've unsuccessfully managed to click through them there without going to their pages. But if we just look at it here, we've got so many centre mids. Like, selling Pessina was kind of a sensible deal anyway. Do I just wait until nearer the end of the transfer window to try and get Zaniolo there? Maybe like there'll be some really exciting options that come up before the deadline day or on deadline day. I mean, deadline day is a fun feature in FM that I've not made much use of this year because I like to get my business done early. But I'm kind of looking at things now thinking, maybe we just try and save it and get Zaniolo in a month's time and hope that by that point he's happy to leave Roma. Or maybe someone new comes along who's shiny and exciting who we can just spend all this remaining money on, because we have got enough money here to buy a superstar if we want to. I feel like it's a bit of an anticlimactic end today. Like, I could go out and sign a load of young players for the sake of it, but in terms of actually really good young players, we kind of already have lots of actually really, really good young players that are in our team that have come through our academy, ones that we've signed. I don't feel like I need to spend the money for the sake of spending it in the transfer special. I mean, yes, we've spent a little bit of money on a few more squad players today, but besides Bastoni, and I guess Moise Keane to an extent, there's not players who are massive upgrades to the first team, but our team was already quite good. And when I look at the money we've actually received, I think we've done okay. I think it's probably been a net win of a transfer window, and we've actually managed to make £3 million of profit, so good job to me. Okay, look, it's August 1st in game. There is a month until the transfer window officially closes and we'll have deadline day. We might make some late moves then, but like I've already said, I don't really want to spend money for the sake of it. I think next episode we'll come back for the game against Genoa and bundle it in with the game against Lazio. Those games are either side of transfer deadline day. And I think we'll do deadline day in a video. Of course, it was one of the new additions to this year's Football Manager. It's one of my more favourite things when everything turns yellow in the user interface and it's all a bit tense and exciting and there's just random players being thrown at you. So why not live through that in a video? I think that's the plan. Yeah, we'll do deadline day next episode. Why not make the most of it? We have money to spend. There might be some really interesting players that come along. Hopefully you guys are excited for that. I don't remember doing deadline in a video, at least recently. I could be forgetting it. I don't think I have. If I have, let me know. If I haven't, don't let me know that I have. Let's end things here. Thank you for watching today. I hope you've enjoyed the transfer special. Bit of a weird one. I really wanted Zaniolo, but I feel like on the whole, a good transfer window. Give it a rating out of 10 in the comments. I'll see you guys next time where we're going to start the season. We're going to do deadline day, take on Genoa, play Lazio. It's going to be a good time. Until then, take it easy. I'll see you on the next one. And yeah, that is all from me. This outro is getting dragged out. I'm going to leave things here. Goodbye.